and welcome. Today I'd like to talk about Paul Daniels. Paul Daniels, I think I've mentioned him before. You know, if I could be like anybody, if I could choose to be like any other performer, it would probably be like Paul Daniels. Now, I really can't make that choice. That's not up to me. I am who I am, and the best that I can do as a performer is to take the person I am and put it out there. That's the best I can do. But I really admire Paul Daniels. Paul Daniels combines great magic with a very personable personality and a great sense of humor. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. And he does a wide variety of magic as well. I've seen him do close-up. I've seen him do mentalism. I've seen him do stage illusions. He just does it all, and he's fantastic. Now, he's no longer with us. I'm going to talk about his biography briefly. But there are really three people that I look up to, and I say these are inspirations for me. Paul Daniels is one, Doc Hilford is another, and Johnny Carson. Now, two of them are magicians. One of them arguably wasn't, although he started in magic. And the thing I like about Johnny Carson, again, is his very personable nature. As far as I know, he had only one major interpersonal conflict, and that's really great. But when I see him work, he takes an active interest in everyone, his audience, his guests, everyone. And so I greatly admire Johnny Carson. I greatly admire Doc Hilford. You know, I have a tendency to enjoy the macabre and some of the darker elements, and Doc really does that, but he does it so well, and he does it again in such a personable way that he makes it palatable even for the mainstream. So Doc is pretty amazing. But Paul Daniels, these are two of his books. I'll talk about those in a minute. This is Paul Daniels right here. I'm going to read a couple of quotes about Paul Daniels, and then I'll read a few quotes that are from Paul Daniels. But Peter Ormerod, that's his name, I think. Anyway, he said, other magicians did tricks. Paul Daniels performed magic. There's a difference. There certainly is a difference. And I've had an opportunity to read some material from Paul Daniels. I understand what he's doing. He takes an effect, he takes it apart, he analyzes it, he rebuilds it, he scripts it. He really makes his magic his own. And that's one of the distinctives of Paul Daniels, and one of the things I like about Paul Daniels. But he takes pretty much anything. If you watch his YouTube stuff, after he retired, he started doing YouTube videos that were somewhat instructional. And one of the things he would do is he would take a very common effect, something you could buy in a department store, and he'd take it apart and rearrange it and present it, and all of a sudden this little thing that you thought was maybe a throwaway trick became magic in his hands. That's the kind of guy Paul Daniels was. Penn Jillette, now you know who Penn Jillette is. Penn Jillette said the great jazz pianist Thelonious Monk said a genius is someone who's most like himself. Paul Daniels was so like himself. I love that compliment because all of us need to be who we are. On stage, in person, we need to be the most authentic people we can be. And Paul Daniels really was that. When you go to see a Paul Daniels show, when you went to see a Paul Daniels show, when you watch it on YouTube, you will see a very authentic, personable individual. You'll enjoy his performances, I guarantee it. There's another image of Paul Daniels with a rabbit in the hat trick. I've referred to the rabbit in the hat before in another video. These are some quotations from Paul himself. When people say to me, don't the years go fast? I have to be honest and say that whereas I don't realize where they go, in the long term, I pack so much into a year, it seems to take forever. I love that. I love that because what it means is that Paul is living. He's living in the moment. He's doing what he loves. And that is a quote from a man who's doing what he loves. Paul Daniels said, I don't particularly have any magical ambitions, but then I never did. I just enjoyed the game. I love that too. I mean, there's an old biblical passage and it talks about the Israelites when they came out of Egypt, and they were following the Shekinah, or the cloud, or the physical presence and the glory of God. They were following that cloud. And I see that as very analogous to the way we need to live our lives. You know, we need to follow the cloud, follow the joy, live in such a way that we're in that abode. And Paul Daniels certainly did. And so he loved his life. He enjoyed his life, and so can you. Paul Daniels. This is Paul. This is a picture of Paul and Debbie. Debbie he married in 1988, I believe. Paul Daniels was born Newton Edward Daniels in Middlesborough, England on April 6, 1938. I've been reading his biography, and he is very much a child of the war. He was a child during the war. There was an air raid, and his mother grabbed him by the hand. They were running for safety. He heard the whirl of the bomb that hit his house and leveled it. So Paul Daniels was very much a child, and I'm talking about World War II here. Paul Daniels developed his ability as an entertainer working the club circuit. He would go on to become a British television celebrity and one of the highest paid magicians in the world. He made his television debut on a talent show, Opportunity Knocks, in 1970. Later, the Paul Daniels Magic Show would run from 1979 to 1994, 15 years on the BBC. He was awarded the Magician of the Year award by the Academy of Magical Arts and Sciences in 1982, the first magician from outside the United States to ever win that prestigious award. He married Debbie McGee, pictured here, 1988. He was 5'5", just 1 inch taller than me. Paul Daniels crossed over on March 17th, 2016. He was 77 years old. He passed at home in Berkshire just a few weeks after it was announced he had been diagnosed with a brain tumor. Debbie McGee was at his side. So that is a real brief sketch of the life story of Paul Daniels. If you want more detail, you can find it in this book right here. This is his autobiography, Paul Daniels, Under No Illusion. Here's Paul and Debbie on the back. It's got some great photographs inside of his career. And it's just a wonderful read. So I highly recommend that to you if you want more information about Paul Daniels and his life and his work. This is a photograph of Paul Daniels with Min. You may not be familiar with Min. Min was Denny Haney's assistant, and they were together at FISM in 1988. Paul Daniels got her up out of the audience and did the linking ring routine with her, and it was absolutely fantastic. It was his unique routine. It was not Di Vernon's. Typically, magicians do Vernon's Symphony of the Rings, and I love that. Pop Hayden is a good example of someone who doesn't do the symphony, and also Paul Daniels doesn't do the symphony. But he did such a wonderful job with Min. You just can't believe it. So I'm going to give you the links below to some of Paul Daniels' magic. Now, you really need to watch some of his specials because you can get the whole special on YouTube. Just search it out up there in YouTube and watch some of the whole specials because you get a sense. He does a wide variety of magic in every special. And he also has a guest on. So it's lovely to watch the specials. But there are some routines in particular that I'd like you to see. The linking rings is one. I'm going to put the link below. You also have his chop cup routine. He had what's known as a signature chop cup routine. And I'm going to put the link to that below. Also the cups and balls. He does a wonderful cups and balls. And a rabbit from the hat. Now notice those are all classic tricks. He did the classics. He also did, he did, 15 years on television, right? So he's done just about everything. But you'll get a sense. If you're familiar with these classic effects, when you watch Paul do it, you'll get a sense for his creativity because even though it's classic, even though you've seen it before, you've never seen it the way Paul Daniels will do it and present it. That's the kind of guy he was. So take a look at those links. This, of course, is a photograph of his classic rabbit in the hat trick. I've referred to it before under the topic of rabbit in the hat. I won't describe it here, but it is, in my opinion, the very best rabbit in the hat trick ever. So take a look. The link is below. Take a look at that. I think you'll enjoy it. That's a little bit about Paul Daniels. Now, his books, I referred to this one earlier. This is his autobiography, Paul Daniels, Under No Illusion. I highly recommend it. It's a great book, great read. This one right here, Paul Daniels, How to Make Money by Magic. How to Make Money by Magic. Let me tell you something, folks. I'm serious about performing professionally, and I'm not there yet. I'm still working my full-time job, and I enjoy my career. There's nothing wrong with my career. I love it, but I love to be a full-time professional entertainer. I've spent hundreds of dollars going to courses, going to classes on marketing. I have hired consultants to work with me and train me. But most of the things that I've learned in spending that kind of money and in making that kind of investment in my career, it's in this book. And this book is a fraction of the price. This book, let's put it, if you're a raw beginner, and let's say that you've never done a magic show, but in the back of your mind you've been thinking, you know what, I'd love to be a professional magician. This book will teach you how to develop an act, how to hone an act, how to script an act, and how to market and sell the act. It really is. I mean, it's a lot of marketing material that you buy in book form is really quickly dated. This is not. This is relevant. Let me see if I can find real quickly. The first copyright was 2001, so arguably it's 20 years old, but it was updated 2019 by Mir Yedid of Mir Yedid Magic. And that's where you can pick this up. You can pick it up, Mir. If you want to email him, it is meir@mymagic.com. Or you can go to his website, www.mymagic.com. But check this out. I mean, if you're serious about doing magic professionally or semi-professionally, you can't afford to be without this book. It's just fantastic. And another thing I love about this book, in addition to the very practical advice it gives you on marketing and on act development, Paul Daniels shares some personal anecdotes and personal stories about how he developed his own act and how he developed his own career. And it is just invaluable. So it's one of the great investments. It's always good in magic when you put your money out and you feel like you got your money's worth. Because I'll tell you something, folks. There's a lot of times in magic that is not true. You see something advertised, you fall prey somewhat to that advertising. It's very slick, it's polished, so you think, oh, I'd love to have that. So you invest in it, and it comes, and it's nothing like it was advertised. That's just the way it is in magic. It always will be. But that's a good investment, and you're going to be glad you did. So, folks, that's a little bit about Paul Daniels. I hope you enjoyed it. I know this was brief, but I'm just trying to stimulate your interest in Paul. I hope you will subscribe to me below, and I hope that you will comment. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your subscription, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye-bye.